Mohamed Patel wins the
Look at these two go.
He's going to do it. His first victory.
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been.
Well, hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, as you join us for a new season, a new beginning here in the Formula Sim Racing Academy Championship. The boards are wiped clean, the standings reset as the teams and drivers once more hunt for that tightly contested championship title. Casting our minds back a few months or so, it was an incredible season. Back and forth between Cosmo Prosciutto and Damien Scauron, the two tyrants almost unmatchable as we approach the latter stage of the championship. With 6 wins and 7 podiums over the course of the 12-round season, Scauron was able to prove his might, and despite Prosciutto's best efforts, Damien was able to etch the title by 20 points come the season's end. Into this year, we have 10 rounds and have the pleasure of travelling and returning to iconic circuits such as Spa and Silverstone. 2 rounds also to be decided by a community vote, which is certainly something to look forward to. To kick off round 1, we are back at Imola, a tight and twisty circuit that never ever fails to provide both drama and action, the perfect venue to get the 2022 season underway. With proceedings just moments away, I'm pleased to welcome VCO eSports on board here supporting FSR, and of course to our returning sponsor of Mesita eSports, bringing everyone watching along what I can guarantee to be a stellar season of racing. I'm Zach Sweeney, joined by Ross McIntyre and Tobias Blumschein alongside me. Pleasure to have you both with me. Ross, I'll start with you. Obviously new to FSR, but regardless, what are your thoughts and feelings ahead of the new season?
Well, hello, Zach. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and of course, hello to Tobias as well, and to all our viewers at home. Well, I'm just super excited. Imola, it's a classic circuit. Again, as you said, you can't go wrong here. It's a track that provides excitement. It provides good racing. And, coming in with a new season, the hopes are going to be high for all these drivers out on the grid looking to prove a point and make a name for themselves in the FSR world. And, well, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm just super excited to get away and very excited to be here as well.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a pleasure to have you both along. Tobias, I'll come to you now. Of course, again, new to FSR and sort of the ins and outs of things, but you're very experienced on rFactor 2 yourself. In a Formula car, what are the challenges that come with that?
Well, obviously, hello everyone. It's an honor to be here too. Yeah, Formula cars are very challenging, obviously, because the tyres aren't built for very long distances. So that's the thing, you're seeing mid-race is that the tyres might slowly fall off, which means strategy might be a pivotal part of this season in general. Obviously, new regulations coming in, which will be later clarified probably. But no, also Formula cars are also quite brittle, so you can't really do much bumping with them, unlike touring cars or other sort of Formula races. That's where the issue comes, obviously, with Formula cars. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it certainly is, because they're so fast. It's very difficult for you to sort of react to a lot of things. They're almost so fast that it comes with its own challenges. And as you say, it's certainly not going to be a case of rubbing as racing, especially around a tricky circuit like Imola. It's just, you look left, there's either a gravel trap or a bit of grass ready to spit you out. Some very difficult corners, but also a very historic circuit that, Ross, can definitely give us both some really good hot laps when they're nailed, but also can give us some drama and excitement, of course, with the new DRS that's sort of been slightly changed. The distance has been shortened to 0.7 of a second, but the effectiveness of the DRS has been increased, hopefully to give us some side-by-side action in towards the Tamburello chicane.
Well, hopefully the idea is coming into the new DRS regulations that should promote closer racing. Whether that's going to happen, we'll have to see today. Of course, we've all got our fingers crossed in the commentary booth, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, Imola result is the perfect track to test that out as well. You've got that big, long, not quite a straight down into the Tamburello chicane, flat out. You're banging out to the top of the gearbox, banging out to the top of the rev range as you come in to that iconic first section here at Imola. And it's going to be interesting to see. I think we'll be seeing lots of side-by-side action into Tamburello. It's definitely going to be one of the overtaking hotspots of the day with the DRS heading into it. It might not be. We could also see maybe some risky moves into Villeneuve. I know we've seen some there before in the past. And, well, in sim racing, it's always best to give it a go and see if you can get it off, because you know you're not going to have a massive accident and get hurt in that yourself. You can just tab back to the pits and, well, carry on as you go. But it should be interesting. Again, the new DRS regulations, we're going to have to see how well they work here today. It's a bit of a taster run, but I'm very excited to see how it all works out, how it's all going to go. And well, we've only got a few minutes now until we'll be cracking off underway in qualifying. And well, I'm just really excited to see how it goes. Of course, the qualifying, it is a private session, so it's all on your own. No help from the other cars. We can see hopefully coming out onto the track now. There we are with Arvel running down into the bottom end of the circuit. It is a private session. If this is your first time watching along in FSR, it'll look a bit weird because there's no other cars on track that it'll seem to you. That's because it's a private session. It essentially stops you getting the advantage of slipstreams from other drivers. So there are drivers going around the track all at the same time. It's just that they're essentially invisible. A bit hard to explain, but yeah, it's a bit complicated. But essentially, you're on your own on the track for qualifying, and it all comes together in the race. And we should be seeing our first hot laps coming in just a few moments' time with a little over 8 minutes left in qualifying.
Yeah, so of course the drivers get 3 hot laps, 9 laps in total, 3 out laps, 3 hot laps, and then of course 3 in laps, in which case they can sort of just escape back to the pit lane. There's no real need for them to sort of pull back into the pit lane by themselves. But we're watching on board with Arvel through the first sector. A decent time of a 19.4, but at the moment it's Bokout, who is purple, well, into this season. They don't need to start the race on the tyres they set their fastest lap in qualifying on. So it's a nice even sheet in that everyone can do their laps on the soft compound of tyre, the fastest of our range, the softs, mediums and the hards, and of course gives a free rein in terms of strategy. Expect a one-stop in this race, shorter races in the Academy Championship, so that opens the door for obviously it being a shorter race. You've got to get the moves done a little bit quicker. You've got to get off to a good start, get into that momentum quickly, but also strategy isn't as big of a deal. It's more, you know, soft to medium, medium to soft, whatever it is, as we see Arvel set the benchmark time, the first of those in order to do so across the line. What's it going to be? In fact, Morlato, purple to the final sector. 17.7 sets the benchmark, and Arvel 1.1 seconds off it. Just a moment. As Bukout, well, that was a very good time from him. As Smith, just a little bit quicker, 4 thousandths of a second between those two. So it's certainly shaping up to be a really, really close session, Tobias.
Yes, definitely. Obviously, this is the Academy Series lowest, which means that it's probably where the grassroots start. But no, it looks like it's going to be really close. Obviously, the top 4 are all separated within a 10th, and the top 3 within a hundredth, which is incredibly close if you know Formula Racing nowadays. But no, obviously, the new regulations seem to be focusing really well on qualifying right now. Obviously, it's private, so we won't be able to see much of it right now. However, no, it looks really good. Looking forward to it. This is the first run for everyone, so we'll see them probably slowly get quicker as they learn the track, and we'll probably see a few more people go up there after getting their second run down because they've probably messed up or something. And so yeah, we'll probably see a lot to come though still.
Of course, yeah, it's all about rhythm. It's all about acclimatizing yourself to a circuit first. You don't want to go out for your first lap in qualifying, give it absolutely everything, you know, pedal to the metal, just absolutely send it into every corner, because that really doesn't really get you anywhere. Of course, for the first, at least the first lap, you want to take it easy, get a good banker in, so then you can reference that to your delta for your second and third lap time. It's all about settling in, getting yourself acclimatized. And so far we've got the top 5 separated by just under a 10th of a second. So it's really, really close. You can't afford to have, you know, any mistakes. You know, you've got to make sure you nail every corner as best you can, because it comes down to maybe even just getting onto the throttle a little bit earlier, getting on the brakes a little bit later, turning in just this fraction later, or getting on a curb. That could be the difference between first, second, or even settling the difference between the top 5 Ross. You know, it's a lot's at stake, and as a driver, missing out by something by such a fine margin, how frustrating could that be?
I mean, it's not something I'm used to, because I'm usually the person at the back that's a few seconds off, but yeah, that must be incredibly frustrating, I'm sure. You know, just to know that you were that close, you know, literally millimeters away. You know, if you're a few millimeters ahead at the line, you would have, you know, been looking at a position better, maybe even pole position. That's got to hurt, but at the end of the day, the qualifying isn't what matters. What matters is where you are at the end of the race when the checkered flag flies. And if you've set your car up for the race and you're this good in qualifying, then you're in with a good shout, because you know, yes, you know, you can be ridiculously quick in qualifying. Your 1 lap pace can be, you know, half a second quicker than anybody else. But come race day, if your car just isn't good on the high fuel loads, running those longer runs on the tyres, then you may as well just pack up and go home, because there's no point. Qualifying is not what wins you championships. It's the race and the points and the positions that you get in the race that wins you the championships. And that's what these drivers do have to be focused on. That being said, a solid qualifying performance, you can't go wrong there. Of course, you want to be up the front. You want to be making an impression in the first qualifying session of the year as well, as they were on board with the number 22, heading in through the final corner now. And yeah, you want to be making a good impression, you want to be looking good, and you want to be starting from the front, because it is the easiest to get the good positions if you're starting from the front. So we'll just have to wait and see how the drivers are thinking about as Boko goes to the pole position there, half a second up on Howard in P2. Great lap, purple sector 1 and 2. Really, really good stuff there, and he's got enough time as well to come in for a final flying lap late in the session. Another thing to note as well, we're not expecting any weather here today. The weather, we've got a 2% chance of rain here for the ACA race, and then there's 0% for the rest of the afternoon. And all of the FSR series, as we see, one of the RS cars, that was Moinier, going straight on at the final corner, losing out on his front wing and going back to the pit lane. Hopefully he'll be okay. I'm sure he'll have time to get back out there and have another run through. But as I was saying, a 2% chance of rain. It's going to be dry through all of today. So that's another thing drivers have to take into account as well. They don't have to worry about the wet weather tyres. They just need to focus on their dry running, focus on getting these tyres into the zone. Because, of course, we're running live weather as well. This is what the weather is actually like at Imola right now. We're taking the weather data from the region, putting it into the game. So this is as close to driving on the real track weather-wise as you can get. So the drivers, they'll be needing to look at the weather. They know it's not going to rain, as we see that running slightly wide there from Rajkovic, that they need to be adjusting tyre pressures going into the race. They need to be adjusting fuel loads. They need to be adjusting wing levels based on the atmospheric pressure. There's lots of stuff going on. Even though it's dry, it's just not that simple. And as we come into the last 2.5 minutes of qualifying, this is where the lap times, this is where it gets serious. This is where the drivers are going to be going flat out, trying to set the best laps they can, go as fast as they physically can, as we can see there. I believe that was no, it wasn't Buko, apology, it was Van Vukas running slightly wide, coming out of Villeneuve. That's really not going to help him, but I think he is on an outlap, luckily. But as I was saying, this is it, Zach. This is where it's crunch time if you want to be getting pole position.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a great lap from Bukow to separate himself from the field, giving himself that nice buffer that even maybe if his final lap doesn't go to plan, he still has a decent lap in the bank. And it comes down to that thing I was saying a little bit earlier in terms of the whole get a good lap in, because he's still got one lap to go. He can push as hard as he wants on that lap, as we see Harvey going into Tosa, just getting a little bit wrong off the exit of Villeneuve, over the curb a little bit. These curbs are lethal, especially through Tamburello and Villeneuve. Those little sausages on the inside will definitely spit you out. These cars, Tobias, are very, very low to the ground, and a slight elevation change like that with the curbs and things like that we see here going through the double right. You've got those massive sausage curbs trying to prevent you from cutting. It really does affect these cars. They're so low to the ground that you go over them, you jump, and as soon as that car exits the floor, you have absolutely no control of it, and it can really spit you out. So it adds to the challenge of Imola, and really will show who is separate the good from the great, I suppose you could say. And that has a lot of luck going on from Harvick, really having to get the car thrown in. Not purple, an improvement to the middle sector as he comes out of the final corner and on this dash to the line. Where can he put himself? At the moment, it's P6, 5.5 tenths off Bukout's time. And as he comes across the line, where's he going to put himself? P3, so a decent lap from him, Tobias. And overall, seems to be a really, really close qualifying session.
Yeah, for sure. That's the thing we've been seeing all session right now, actually, is how close it is, as we're currently on as Dennis Saharoff going through into a chicane right now. Now we'll see here going through it how they'll jump over the curbs quite a lot, which will unsettle the car. Although he's taking quite a clean line through there. Usually, sometimes what a lot of people will do is hop over the curbs, which can unsettle the car a lot, meaning that you could spin. That's the risk of going over, obviously. But no, some curbs can be okay to take. It depends which one. It's the orange curbs you really want to avoid. Otherwise, you're going to go. You're going to be spinning around or flying into the sky and going off and hitting the barrier. So that's the thing you have to really be careful about here in Imola. That's obviously something. See, as Zaharoff, currently on Howard, just going through again, getting up to Sector 2. We'll see his Sector time. Will it be another improvement? Again, 24.9, slight improvement going into Sector 3 now. Over the chicanes, better bumps than I saw Dennis Zaharoff take. Going down 5th gear now. Under the bridge into the penultimate corner. You'll want to break around 100 here, I think. Not later, these cars, because of the downforce. going through the final 2 corners again. Stay wide, keep on exit, and good on powers. Seemed like quite a clean, tidy exit. Obviously, doesn't look fast, but usually when they don't look fast, they are faster. As he crosses the line, he goes second, fastest sector 3. Really well done from him. Look out though, is fastest sector 2, going down into the penultimate corner. Again, you can see how much they cut through. They take the curb there. That's something you can really notice nowadays. So you know, Zach, it's really going good, isn't it, for the for Team Iris Wesley Bookout, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. He purple to middle sector didn't quite improve in the first, but certainly does set a good benchmark time. A 15.741 is your pole time for him. Great start to the season. Howard, a purple final sector for him on his lap. Got him onto the front row, and he can only go forward from here. He can really try and put some pressure on Bokout as they go in towards turn 1. It's a relatively long run, so that run must. It's so crucial. We'll go through. It is Wesley Bokout in the Team Iris car, a 15.741. He takes pole position ahead of the Netrex Liam Howard in P2. Oliver Parikan in P3 with Scott Flack P4. George in the Ground Effect Sim Racing team rounds out the top 5 with Matthias Harvik in P6. Thomas Smith in P7 with the Ground Effect Racing team, the number 20 car in P8. Then comes Lianos in P9 with Davo Brantham rounding off the top 10 for Valley Esports. A very close, very tight qualifying session with those on the second row separated by just 6/1000ths of a second. Then comes Dylan Platt in P11, Dmitry Zahov in P12, Loic Moina in P13, Attila Molnar in 14th, Indrek Remitz in the Netrex number 4, 15th with Thomas Andriamiarisoa in P16. Then comes Vivris Mistral in 17th and Jablinski in P18. Then comes Nandor Marsa in P19 with Luchak rounding off the top 20, 1.5 seconds separating the top 20. So really nothing in it at all. It's so close. These guys are separate for virtually nothing, and that is the beauty of Academy Championship. We've got all of these guys trying to prove themselves to the teams in Pro and the World Championship that they have what it takes. 21st comes Alex Arvel, and then comes Milan Rajovic in P22. The competition 94, P23 with Garad Batala in 24th. Thomas in P25, then comes Morlato in 26. Slavanic in P27 with Taylor Lane 28. Then comes David O'Reilly and Peter Vagapov 29th and 30th. Neither of them able, unfortunately, to set a time in this qualifying session. Well, Ross, 2.5 seconds separate the entire grid. Certainly is shaping up to be a very good race today.
Oh, it is indeed. We should have a hot lap coming up for you very shortly, but I'm very excited to see what we've got on show. Again, it's a very close grid. 2.5 seconds, it sounds like a lot, but that's the whole grid. You know, the top 10, very tight indeed, and I'm really looking forward to what we can have on display. And well, as I mentioned, we'll have a bit of a hot lap by the one and only Michi Hoyer, getting us a look around Imola, showing us the secrets of how one of the top guys in FSR does it before we jumping into the race. And well, getting start to the 2022 season.
Hello guys, welcome everyone to the Formula Sim Racing season 2022. We are live for the season opener at San Marino, and I'm very proud to take you guys around the San Marino Grand Prix circuit for a flying hot lap. San Marino circuit, the host of the season opener for the FSR 2022 season. DRS is wide open. And across the start-finish line we go, coming towards the best overtaking spot, turn 2 and 3, basically a chicane, want to be flat out through 4, and easy on the steering as the car can easily step out. Into turn 5, want to stay all the way on the inside here to set yourself up through 6, and then into 7 we go, a very late apex hairpin, where you want to be on the throttle as early as possible, the great traction. Up the hill towards turn 8, 2 downshift to the left, full mount of the curb, don't go too wide over the rattle curb on the outside, coming down towards Aqua Minerali, a little bit of coast to the right, Kingdon, heavy braking into the right hand turn, up the hill, car can be a little bit loose over the crest, and then heavy braking for Variante Alta, the big chicane. Not too hard onto the rattle curb as DRS is enabled again for the back straight down to the final 2 turns. Rivazza 1 and 2 want to hug the inside of that curb a little bit, and very important Rivazza 2. You want to have a great exit onto the start finish straight. Again here DRS wide open, and we're going to be across the line. That is the San Marino circuit, host of race 1 for the FSR 2022. We got a great season ahead, and now I can't wait to see the drivers battling it out for the first win of the season.
Welcome back then, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you to Michi Hoyer, our star driver, giving us a nice insight to the lap here around Imola. Again, just a reminder, we are partnered with VCO this season. It's a pleasure to have them on board supporting FSR, and thank you again to our returning sponsor of Mesita eSports. But yeah, Ross, Tobias, it's qualifying shaped up to lead into a very, very good 38 lap race here. Not the longest in the world, but still long enough to provide us with some really, really good action. Of course, we've got the front two separated by around about 2/10, and everyone down there, the entire field separated by 2.5 seconds. Really is just going to be a really good race. I cannot wait at all. We've got the cars on the formation lap at the moment, which we'll cut to in just a second. I certainly cannot wait because it's a long-ish run down in towards the first chicane. Again, another look through the starting order. It's Resli Buku on pole position. Liam Howard alongside on the front row. Then comes Oliver Parikan in P3. Scott Flack in P4. Sally Giannis in P5 with Matthias Harvik in P6. Thomas Smith P7 with Vam Vukas in P8 for the number 20 Ground Effect Sim Racing team. They're going to be happy with the top 10. Then comes Giannis Lianos in P9. David Brantham in P10. Dylan Platt just outside the fringes of the top 10, but still P11 can only go forward in this race. Dmitry Zarhov P12. Loic Miona in P13 with Attila Molnar P14. Indrek Remitz for Netrex Grand Prix 15th with Thomas Andriami Arisoa in P16 for Royal Blue. He's going to return for another season in Academy. Fabrice Mistral in 17th with Jabolinsky in P18. Then comes Nando Massa 19th with Luchak rounding off the top 20. Those guys separated by just shy of 1.5 seconds. Very, very close indeed. Alex Arvo 21st with Milan Rajovic in 22nd. Then comes Garnier in 23. Gerhard Battler in 24th. Then we have Thomas 25th with Fabrice Morlato 26th. Then comes Slovaniak in 27th. Taylor Lane in 28th. Those last of those that were able to set a qualifying time in this session. David O'Reilly and Peter Vagapov round off the grid 29th and 30th for Valet Esports in the number 30, funnily enough. But yeah, it's a close qualifying. We're on the grid, I think, very shortly, just on the formation lap. So, interesting to see, Ross, what these guys are starting on. They're on the medium tyres for Buku. That's going to give them a slightly worse run off the line compared to Liam Howard.
It will, of course. He has the advantage of going from the pole position, has the advantage of being on the clean side, the green so-called side of the grid, and of course he has the mental advantage of being on pole position as well. He knows he has the pace, but Howard off the line will get the better jump. On the run down to Tamburello will have the faster car, just the better traction from those tyres. Again though, the medium tyre, it will last longer. So now we're already seeing strategy come into play. If you look through the top 10, it's actually quite an even split. We've got 6 on the softs, 4 on the mediums. That's quite an even split. I think it's going to say. So it's going to be some interesting strategies. Seeing Arvel on the hards as well, down in 21st. So we've got some split strategies across the grid. We're just going to have to wait and see how it folds out. As Ben said, we've got 38 laps to look forward to here at Imola. And well, I can't wait.
Certainly not, and it's going to be hopefully a cracker to introduce both of you into FSR. It's the second time in a row we've started the season here in San Marino. Well, not really San Marino, it's about 40 kilometers away from San Marino, but anyway, it's the Imola circuit. We've got Buku on pole, Liam Howard alongside as they all funnel their way through, line up on their grid slot. The pole position is on the left-hand side. That's going to give him the slightly dirtier line, but more crucially, it's going to give him the inside line and, of course, a 9-meter head start into turn 1, into Tamburello. It's a relatively quick chicane, not really on the brakes for very long, but still that start's going to be crucial, and the outside momentum from Liam Howard can give him that run around the outside, quickly becomes the inside for turn 2, or well, technically turn 3 more so. And that's going to give him a really good run. We've got Vagapov lining up at the back of the grid, waiting for the 5 red lights to illuminate your screen. We get underway for this first round of this Academy Championship. And here we go then, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 red lights to a new season here in the FSR Academy Championship, and we are underway. A good start from Liam Howard, so too from Parakan as they all funnel their way through in towards the Tamburello chicane. A very dominant run down in towards turn 1. Parakan putting Liam Howard under pressure, but is still a dominant start. Buku manages to control the race through turns 1, 2, and 3, and into Villeneuve for the first time. A bit of a spin, I think, further back. Yellow flags through the first sector, but so far a really, really good clean start as Liam Howard manages to consolidate second place, but Buku a perfect start, Tobias.
Yes, definitely, especially because he's actually gone out of the 7/10th gap right now, so he's not going to have trouble from Liam Howard right now for the DRS, which is the big important thing what he's done. He's had a perfect start on the mediums, showing that he might have actually made a better strategy call, but we don't know yet, so that'll be a thing to watch out for, the strategy going more into the race. But no, looks like he's had a really good start coming in. Harikian is quite close to Howard, so that could be a battle coming into the race. Still within the 7/10th gap for the DRS, which will be very interesting to look at coming through the race section, I think.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a long DRS train because look at how close all of these guys are. In fact, Arvo starting on the hards. That's something we weren't really expecting for a lot of people, as Buku is just absolutely gone. 1.5 seconds now that lead, as Parakan still within the 7/10 of Liam Howard, as you said. This is Zalagianis on the back of Scott Flack as they tucked up in the slipstream down in towards the Tamburello. He's on the soft compound tyres, going to have that extra grip, but Buku has proved that completely wrong because he's got those medium tyres fired up. Not quite going to be close enough for a move on this particular occasion, but Ross, certainly a good way to get the season underway. No real major incidents so far.
No, not so far. Had a pretty clean start, as it would seem. And as you said, Buku with a great start on those medium tyres. 2 seconds is now the gap. Whoa, really sideways. We've seen there from Flack coming out of the Villeneuve chicane. And as they're heading up now, round the hairpin and back up the hill, you can see the gap that Buku has already. Visually, it is mightily impressive. And now, after that mistake from Flack, we've got a bit of a bunching up of cars behind, a few cars trying to find their way through because they've still got the momentum. Imola is a track that is all about momentum. It's all about carrying as much speed as you can through this middle sector, down the hill and back up again as you come round on the lap into Variante, out of the big chicane. Don't want to clobber those curbs too hard, but you can still give them a good beating, but they will throw you off, and you've got to watch the AstroTurf on the exit of the chicane as well. It is not the nicest thing at the best of times. Heading into the penultimate corner now, you can see just this train of cars that we've got going, and we should be seeing some DRS soon, very short as well. It's great even to see just how close these cars are following each other, coming through that final section. We're in an area where downforce is so important. Now look at how close they are. As they come around, we've seen cars dart left, we've seen cars dart right. Is anybody going to try and move into the chicane? No, they're not. Ooh, a little bit of a look there for Jablonski, but he decides against it. Oh, we got a car off there, and that is Flack. Half a lap after his early mistake, coming out of Tamburello across the grass. So he's made a mistake somewhere in the early part of Tamburello and has had to take the escape route. He's dropped down to 12th there. Can't see any damage on the car. Looks okay from the outside, and the tyres, importantly, should be okay as well, but that's not what he would have wanted this early stage in the race.
Absolutely not. It really does tarnish the rest of your race. As you said, it's all about rhythm, all about momentum, hop, skip, and a jump around the lap, and having those mistakes, not really settling the car in well, is really going to hamper his race. He's still got a long way to go, longish way to go. We say 38 laps. You know, it's comparatively compared to the Pro and the World Championship, not really the longest of races, but still, in terms of this race, it is very long. We've got Van Vukas on the back of Harvick, looking to get himself inside that top 5. He's on these fresher and these softer compounded tyres. That's really going to help him, along with the DRS, though. How much of an aid is it going to be? Because Harvick has the DRS on Zalagianis, who has the DRS just about on Parakan, just in front of him. So these guys are locked in a train, but you can see Van Vukas has got some insane straight line speed, pulling to the right-hand side and towards Tamburello. The move for P5, not really hard fought by Harvick, who I think realises, Tobias, that you're on the soft. You're going to be quick. A bit of a crash a little bit further back.
Oh, no.
This is Jablonski, and I think, is that Flack involved as well? Not quite sure, but he manages to keep that pointing in a straight line just about going well, as best as he can. Luckily, not to be spun 180 degrees there twice.
Here we can see replay coming on for Jablonski as heading down the main straight, coming into the Tamburello chicane, and we can see that, oh no, just clipping. Oh, that's just unfortunate. That's just a misjudging from each other there. I don't think either driver quite realised where the other one was going there. A front right and a rear left wheel colliding, and Raul Entrabolski, luckily, it seems no damage. And he's actually, and there we can see Zaloganis trying and going onto the gravel on Perikian. Those soft tyres, I just don't think they're working quite as well as anybody would have wanted them to. Buko's, he's got a second and a half. He's dropped back from that original massive gap he had at the start. And there we can see Zalogianis now going past Perikian and getting moved down before the braking zone. But, Tobias, I don't know about you, but for me, it just seems like the soft tyres, they're just not getting quite switched on yet. The mediums, for me, they seem to be the race tyre to be on.
Yeah, for sure. I think the mediums right now are much, much better in pace. However, Liam Howard is catching Wesley Bookout, and that is the important thing to see in the race coming in to the later stages. Let's see how much he can keep on to Wesley Bookout, because later in the stint, Wesley is going to be faster than him going through. But however, once the pit stop cycle happens, it could be different, but he is nearly close to within that second. Zach, how do you see this playing out?
Well, of anyone on the soft compound tyres, it seems that Zalogianis has got the best of the bunch. His setup seems to be working. I guess it's all about temperatures as well. Imola is a quite demanding circuit, and if you're, racing these soft compound tyres around as hard as you can, they're going to heat the internal carcass temperature up a little bit, and that's going to cause them to slide a little bit more than you perhaps would have liked. But Van Vukas as well, he's on the back of Perikian, so like Zalogianis, has definitely got some good pace on these softs. He's got a good run down this pitch straight, trying to make that an extra place and get himself inside the top four, as Liam Howard is in fact within 7/10 of Bukout a little bit further up, so those softs coming into his own. But here comes Van Vukas trying to make it another move around the outside of the Tamburello chicane. It's going to be a little bit more hard fought from Parakian. They're going to have to go side by side, going to have to concede that position though. Over the soft chicane, but Parakian, whoa, that was great reaction times from Van Vukas. Gets himself into P4, well, not in the way he would perhaps have liked, but Parakian, yeah, just maybe, I guess Ross just under pressure, and in that just got a little bit desperate on the brakes.
Yeah, just a bit too much. I'm not sure if he lost the car. We can see here, comes off the curb. Ooh. Yeah, just I'm not sure if he just got on the throttle too early, and that combined just with the car reacting to the curb, and round he goes. These things, they've got a lot of power, and of course they have a lot of grip as well, but it's easy to get too confident, easy to get too cocky, and just overstep your marks. And well, this is a car that very much will bite back, as we've seen there with Parakian. And well, down the order, he tumbles all the way down to P11 now. That's a big shame for him, but he will be fighting back. It's only lap 6, still plenty of time left in this race. And now on board with Howard, who's really, really pulled in Buko. Now, I think, I'm not sure if Buko's trying to conserve tyres or fuel, but, well, Howard, let's just say that he's suddenly switched it on as well. You've got a combination of two, and he's in the slipstream. He's now pulling to the outside. This is going to be an easy move, done even before the corner, surely, on the brakes into the Tamburello chicane. And with the DRS, the new 0.7 second DRS that we have, we can see there, it may be a shorter distance, a shorter gap that you need to be in to get that DRS active. But, wow, it was certainly working there for Howard. He takes the lead, lap 7.
Yeah, great move, just easy as you'd like it. Got the run off the penultimate corner technically, and just managed to get the drive. Of course, Bukout is quick, he is consistent, probably made a bit of a mistake that allowed Liam Howard to latch onto the back of him. But don't forget that Bukout, he was quick in qualifying, he got off to a good start in the race. He's on these medium tyres now. Remember, that's going to translate into a faster car later on, so expect him to bite back at Liam Howard a little bit later on. We're only on lap 7 of 38. We're not even a fifth of the way through this race just yet, but these two as a pack, as a group, have really broken off 4 seconds to Zalogianis a little bit further back. And well, he's got the DRS. He's latched on onto the back of Liam Howard. He's sort of got a fishing hook, got onto the rear wing, and he's going to try and reel him in, stay with him, maybe launch a counter-attack if he can. This is Remitz on the back of Flack, who's been going backwards a little bit in this race, and on those soft compound tyres, probably will make light work of him. But Bukout, is he going to launch an attack on Howard? He's in the DRS range down this pitch straight, tucked up nicely in that slipstream. Howard punching a lovely hole in the air, goes defensive in towards the Tamburello. Bukout going to have to look to the outside, but Tobias, no move going to be fabricated on this occasion.
Yeah, he just didn't have, just wasn't close enough to the rear of him. And also, we shouldn't forget that these cars also have about 60 seconds of push to pass, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that is a thing to count on to it. Maybe he was using it. That's something we cannot see. However, we can think about that. That is definitely something to remember with these cars. The 60 seconds of push to pass will give you a good amount of boost, so it can probably evade those new DRS attacks, which are a bit more potent, but you have to be close, obviously.
Yeah, you've got to be close. You've got to make the most of every launch. The exits, most importantly. You can't make a move mid-corner unless they make a drastic mistake. It's all about that exit off the corner into the straight that you make those moves. All good being quick through the corners. You can close the gap, but can you make the move stick? That's probably going to be, a difference that they compromise in qualifying, taking a little bit less wing. That might compromise them in the corners, and over one lap will slow them down. But in the race, you've got to be slippery down the straight. You don't want to be a sitting duck, as Buku definitely is interested maybe in putting an attack. We've got Van Vukas on the back of Harvick trying to get himself inside the top 4 once again. Within 0.4 of a second as we go on to lap 9 of 38. Is Buku close enough? We've seen moves from a little bit further back than this, just doesn't quite have the closing speed that he would have liked on these medium tyres. And maybe Ross, he's just thinking he's probably a little bit quicker. There's no point fighting, because the more they fight, the more Zalogianis is brought right back into this fight, as we see Van Vukas going around the outside, or Harvick getting overtaken by Van Vukas into the Tamburello, and got that done before the corner. But yeah, Ross, back to my point, is Buku just sitting behind Howard, avoiding the fight and waiting for him to be quicker a little bit later on?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Again, he doesn't want to be destroying his medium tyres at this point, as well as we can see there, as we were just seeing Van Vukas overtaking Tamburello. The very next chicane at Villeneuve goes off the road onto the gravel, drops back down to P5. Just a little mistake there. Just shows how easy it is to get it wrong in these cars. I think Buko, he's holding all the cards at the moment, and he's holding them very close to his chest. Those medium tyres, they can go longer than the softs. And at first it looked like they were actually the better race tyre to be on, but I think Buko, he doesn't want to ruin his tyres. He doesn't want to bring Zalogianis into that lead fight. So he's just going to let Howard do his thing out the front. He's happy to sit there just behind him, just following, as long as he's not overheating his tyres, as long as he's not worrying about wear too much. The wear in these cars, it's not too bad. You can run the cars down to some very, very low tyre percentage left on the wear. It's the temperature that's the big concern. You need to keep them in the optimal temperature range for the tyres to be working. Well, with all things said and done, as I say that, Buko, he's trying again this time with the DRS into Tamburello round the outside. It's a carbon copy of the move that he did on Howard, and he squeezes the door, slams it in his face, and Buko back to the lead with a brilliant move round the outside of Tamburello. Wow, that was close, but perfectly judged, and he retakes the lead of the race on lap 10. That was brilliant.
It really was, and maybe we're seeing now the crossover between the softs and mediums. This is Van Vukas. Harvick got back past once again. Great fight between these two then, it seems. A bit of a DRS battle, swapping positions. Each lap, that is very sideways from Loiner into the barrier off the exit of Villeneuve. That's a big shunt. Is he still in this race? But either way, that's going to be a hefty chunk of damage to his car. But yeah, Howard seems to be dropping off the back of Bukow, who I have been corrected on. I do apologise. But yeah, 7/10, he's just about on the fringes of that 7/10 range. But Van Vukas and Harvick really are going at it. This could be the crossover between around about lap 10, where the softs have degraded a lot quicker than those mediums, and the pace they have is sort of dropping off in comparison to the mediums that are now sort of relative to the softs a little bit quicker. So we might be able to see Bukow just pulling off into the distance, maybe not quite, because Howard is still within the DRS, and Tobias, they've got a bit of traffic to contend with as well. We see it in endurance racing, from experience, traffic can be a deciding factor.
Yes, definitely. In endurance racing, it's obviously a very pivotal role in where and how you lap a car. I wouldn't say I'm a genius at it, to say the least. However, yeah, no, it is definitely a big part of endurance racing, and it can be a big part of formula racing, knowing how to lap a car properly and knowing how to get lapped properly, especially if you don't want to get penalties. Knowing how to lap and lapping properly is pivotal to driving these cars, in any sort of motorsports, actually.
Yeah, we didn't
One thing I will say, sorry, just kind of across you, Zach, as well, but there's one thing to note is that in FSR here, obviously with a single-seater Formula cars, you do have blue flag rules, which it's different over in endurance. That is one thing to consider, is you will have drivers jumping out the way, which you may not get in. Wow, very sideways from Howard there, coming down into the right. Howard, goodness gracious, that was a great save. As I was saying, though, stepping back a minute, yeah, it is different, so it's important to lap, but of course you have got the blue flag rule on your side. But yeah, it is still important to lap props. You can see there these two going past, I believe. Actually, that's a lie. I have no idea who that was, to be honest. I could not quite tell as they flashed past. It was someone in yellow. It was Mistral. There we go. It was somebody in yellow. I couldn't quite tell who as we flashed past. But it is important. And well, the question is, though, now as I gracefully hand back over to Zach again, does Howard have the pace? He's got the DRS and he's closing now.
He is pulling to the right-hand side, using those soft tyres, whatever's left of him here, around the outside of the Tamburello to retake the race lead here on lap 12. A great fight between these two. They seem to be dominating this race so far. Got it slightly done before the corner, but definitely wasn't done. Still had to be late enough on the brakes, still had to be committed enough and brave enough. Bit of a squirm off the exit of Villeneuve as they go into Tosa. Not a long enough straight to hamper him too much, so Buchau has to sit behind for the time being. But again, it's all about patience. He's on the alternate strategy. He needs to think of, well, the long game. He's going to be quicker later on. He needs to know that. He needs to think, okay, at the moment, fair enough, bite the bullet. I'm going to be a little bit slower. I'm still with him. I've still got good pace. That just means I'm going to be even quicker than him when he has to go onto the slower tyres towards the end. And he definitely showed from qualifying he is a dominant force. He's consistent, really hasn't made much in the way of mistakes. And Howard is going to be having to give his absolute everything in order to stay in front. A bit of a train further back. We've got little groups of cars starting to form, and Buchau is still definitely putting some pressure on. But again, they've just broken away. Zalagianis can't break 3.5 seconds. That's really been the maximum as they round off lap 12 onto 13. Is Buchau going to be interested in going for a move? When are these soft runners going to come into the pit lane? Just over 3.5 tenths between the two, closing down this pitch straight in towards the Tamburello chicane. Just look at how he gets closer, and then as soon as he gets into a certain point, it just is exponential. He starts closing, but at the moment, Tobias, once again, no moves fabricated.
Yeah, he might just want to stay behind him for a little bit, shun his tyres maybe a little bit, just shun his tyres, and as he gets really close to the rear there, that could have gotten nasty, got a bit of surprise there. However, you can really see on the medium tyres that they are starting to wear. You can see the darker middle line, which is showing a little bit of wear. I'm guessing it's going to be a bit worse on the soft tyres, as they're going to wear even more. However, it's going to be interesting to see where they pit. I have a feeling that the soft tyres will be starting to go into pit, well, the soft runners will start into pit range. Also, Loic Muniz pit for hard tyres, so that's going to be really interesting to see. I'm guessing he's done with all his pit stops, so it'll be very, 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 very interesting to see if he is going to the end, if he can go to the end on those tyres or not.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Of course, the shorter laps in the Academy Series will allow for a pretty easy one. So we might even see it in the Pro as well. But yeah, these two just a step ahead, and Zalagianis just. Poor Sword is just in no man's land. He's got 3.5 seconds to these guys, and then about 6.5 down to Van Vukas. Just a little bit, well, I say a little bit, quite a lot behind. And Buchau, is he going for a move again? He's close, but I don't think he's interested. Maybe lifting a little bit in towards, well, turn 2, but look at that. He's definitely filling the mirrors of Howard Ross and just trying to say, hey, I'm here. I'm on the medium tyres. You should be flying off into the distance and just playing the mental game with his opponent.
Yeah, that is definitely a good game to have in your libraries. Again, very close to the back at Howard coming through the Villeneuve chicane, just to fill the mirrors and let them know you're there and pressure them into essentially making a mistake. It's a perfectly viable overtaking maneuver. It's just make the guy in front of you go off and take the position without actually having to go around them. And again, Howard, he's on the softs. He should be pulling away. I am starting to wonder about how his tyres are doing. Has he overheated his tyres? Again, that's something you've got to think about with Buchau as well. But we'll just have to wait and see. Another thing to know as well is obviously we don't really know how these guys push to pass situation is. Of course, they have a minute of push to pass each race. That's 55 extra horsepower that you can use whenever you like, how you like. But it's limited to 60 seconds. That is another tool that these drivers have in their library. So when do you use it? Do you save it for later in the race, or does it become obsolete? Is now the time to use it? Does it come back to bite you? It's just another piece of strategy that these drivers have to their advantage. We come on now to lap 15, and Buchau once again with DRS, but Howard will have it as well from those lap cars in front. So I don't think there's going to be a move this time by.
No, unfortunately not. That's Liam Howard's sort of saving grace, is to approach the traffic at this point. Hopefully he won't get held up a little bit too much. In fact, he's going to have to stand on the anchors very close between the two. Buchau couldn't quite capitalise off it, but I think they're both going to be counting their lucky stars that they didn't get held up too much, and that could have very easily ended with Buchau going straight into the back of Liam Howard. And that's the role that traffic can play, Tobias. That's the thing. They make a mistake in front of you. You have to react to it very, very quickly. And luckily for Liam Howard and Buchau, both of them managed to sort of just finesse their way through that. That could have been disastrous.
Yeah, definitely. My heart pressure went up for a little bit actually due to that. That was very, very weird, very, very questionable, if I may say so myself. But hey, it is the craze of lapping cars, which is in your own class. from endurance racing language, obviously, but there's also one same class. But no, it can get quite crazy when you're lapping cars. So that's something that they're definitely worrying about. As Bukat's slowly a little bit further away, that might have flustered his tires a little bit, that little incident. So no, going in within 5/10, he will have the DRS going onto the back straight. But Liam Howard might be using this time to really get in as we're on going on to lap 16. We've got 22 laps remaining. I could see Howard going to the pits very shortly to get those new medium tyres. But it does depend how much longer he can take those softs, as he seems to be quite good on them, and they still seem to work very well. But Zalogyanis is also catching these two ahead right now. He's only got 2.6 to the car ahead. So that's going to be... We also need to monitor, isn't it? Isn't it, Zach?
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly has chipped away a little bit here and there. He's closed the gap from 1 second over the course of the last couple of laps as Van Vukas comes into the pit lane. He was, if I remember correctly, on those soft compound tyres, so clearly seems to be around this pit window. And of course, the undercut is going to be very, very crucial. If you can come out in some clear air, which he sort of hasn't. He's got Luchak just in front of him, but if he can have this clean lap and get those tyres up to temperature, which I don't think he quite has, if he can come in, get those tyres up to temperature, the undercut could gain him 1 or 2 seconds, which it could be crucial. It could be Liam Howard getting the track position, getting that extra 1-2 seconds in front of Bukel, and then holding it on for the last couple of laps. Even though Bukel is coming at him with some fresher tyres, he can remain in front with his push to pass, with maybe some lap traffic, giving him some DRS, all these little variables that could go his way. But also for Giannis, if he can come in and get some time on Howard and then be in the mix towards the later stages of the race, it could be a 2-horse race turn 3, Ross.
Indeed, we'll just have to wait and see how it all unfolds as Bukel, they're just not close enough once again. He did have the DRS, but just not close enough to have a look. So maybe he's starting to think about his own tyres as well. This is where strategy comes into it. We're coming on to lap 18, and then we're having 20 laps. It's coming up to the halfway point in the race, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. And then what? What do you do? If the soft runners can go beyond halfway, what do you do? Because they obviously can go onto the mediums. You can go onto the softs. You can push hard. It's all down to what tyre is going to be quickest in this second phase of the race. And, well, I honestly have no idea. It's going to be a bit of a ride trying to see what's going to happen. Surely you'd be thinking from a qualifying perspective, from your general tyre knowledge perspective, that your money would be on Bukel. But I just don't know. Howard, his pace is looking good even at this stage in the race. And Bukel he's dropped over a second back now as well, just around about a second anyway. And Zalogyanis is starting to close the gap to him as well a little bit. So I'm not sure what's going on. But, well, Howard now seems to have control of this race for the time being. But then, when does he come into the box? When does he come in for his pit stop? Does he come in now? No, he doesn't. Stays out for another lap. So they'll hit lap 18. Bukel does not have the DRS. We've seen some drivers coming into the pits there. That was Smith just in the pit lane there. And we've seen a few drivers go onto the hard tyres. We've seen Slovanac, Moynier, Batella as well, all go onto the hard tyres. Arvel came off the hards quite early on. So it'll be interesting to see what these front runners do compared to the rest of the field as well as strategy. It's going to be an open book. I simply have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, and yeah, it's strange because I think Howard is using everything left in those softs. This final sort of sprint to the pit stop phase, that he's using everything he's got left in those softs, trying to extract it as best he can, and he's sort of left Bukel in the dust. But again, as you said, it's an open book. We still don't know. In terms of FSR, I think it's always been a case of staying on the soft compound tyres as long as possible, extracting the fresher compound, the fresher rubber, the better grip over the course of a longer period of the race is going to be where you gain your time. We've just got around about 20 and a half laps ish, give or take, left of this of round 1 here in the Academy Championship. So yeah, still a long way to go. And Zalogyanis, Tobias fallen off a little bit, so maybe he had a second wind of pace, and now his tyres really have kicked the bucket.
Yeah, that's something we can realise as Wesley Buckhead goes actually into the pits now. I'm surprised he's going in before Liam Howard. That's something surprised, but I could see Zalogyanis going in the pits, and he has gone to the pits. So now it's pivotal. I'm suspecting Wesley's going to go onto the soft tyres, seeing how long Liam's put them on. Anyway, up on the jacks, he's gone onto the hard tyres, it seems. He's gone onto the hards. You can see it on the green walls on the side there. That is a big surprise.
That's a strange one. That's not entirely sure what he's doing, maybe because obviously Howard's proved these softs can go for a while and still be pretty quick. So why he's gone onto the hards, I'm not entirely sure, because that's just because yes, he can push now to the end, but is that pace going to be as good as it can be? And is the undercut going to be as powerful on Howard? Has Buchhout just given this, not necessarily given it to him, but definitely helped Howard along the way? He's nursed these softs with some sensational pace and consistency all the way, and he's really not flinched at all despite the pressure from the pole sitter by 2/10. He's kept him honest, kept the lead, kept the track position, and hasn't at all been phased. But I think now, even though his tyres may feel fine, may feel like it's half decent, that he might have to come to the pit lane just in case to cover off the undercut, because he doesn't know what tyres he's on. He for all he knows, he's gone onto the softs like he would expect. So yeah, into the pit lane, and this is now going to be crunch time for both him to get a good outlap and also for Buchhout to nail his outlap in order to close the gap, Ross.
One thing I will say is I think Buchhout's gone on to the hards because I think it's, as Howard goes on to the memes there, they have a higher operating temperature window. And this car, the tyres, it's all about not the wear, it's about can you keep the tyres in their temperature operating window in order to get the best performance. And I think that's why Buchhout has gone into the hards, because he can push harder on them. But will they have the pace? We'll have to see. Howard is going to keep the lead into Tamburello and he's going to have the fresher tyres as well. But of course, Buchhout had the advantage of warm rubber that has been going for a lap, and he's in the swing of things. Howard's got to find the grip. Howard's got to find the line. He's got to understand these new tyres. But Buchhout has an extra lap, so he's going to have the advantage. But it looks like Howard is going to be okay for the time being. Harvig now in the lead of the race with Flack and Peter Vagapov rounding out the podium positions for the time being. But those three are yet to pit, so it is Howard in the net lead of this race as it stands, and Buchhout right behind him. And we've gone from soft versus medium to medium versus hard, and it is super close between the two. And if the first 20 laps of this race were anything to go by, it's going to be a crucial few laps now to decide who comes out on top when the checkered flag falls.
Absolutely, and well, he, as you said, the highest operating window is something we were talking about. Why maybe the softs struggled early on is because they were exceeding that temperature window. Also, don't count out Zalagianis. He is definitely in the mix as Howard goes a little bit wide, maybe trying to maximise the exit through these final two meaningful corners as we see Harvey come into the pit lane flag, and Vagapov from the back of the grid is in second place in this race. So definitely driving well, even if he does still owe us a pit stop, still driving incredibly well. Not quite close enough for Buchhout in order to get the move done on this particular occasion. He's got definitely multiple, and of course the traffic just in front. He's going to have to maximise that, carve his way through as best he can, and it could open the door for Buchhout to find a way through. He's got to be tucked up. He is all over the rear wing, right underneath the rear wing of Howard as they go in towards Tosa. Giannis just trying his absolute best to close this gap, and of course the more they fight, the more Zalagianis is brought into this fight. It could definitely be a 3-car battle for this race lead. Tobias, it's so decisive. We don't really know who's going to come out on top until the checkered flag.
Yes, of course we do. And also something about the hard tyres and Wesley Buchhout. I'd just like to point out that Loic Muniz on the hard tyres, which could probably also be a big reason why he's on them right now. He might, as their teammates, they're probably constantly talking with each other. So that could be a big reason why he's gone on to them, because he's gotten the information on how they work and if they're any good. So I think that might be a reason why he's gone on to them, and probably shows that Muniz is probably also just as quick as Wesley Buchhout is right now. As we're going around the final corner, Wesley Buchhout's close, and he does have the advantage of having DRS. Liam Howard does not have the DRS.
No, definitely not. They've got they've got the cars just in front, the bit of traffic just in front. He is closing, and an absolute rate of knots in towards the Tamburello. Liam Howard goes defensive. Is Buchhout going to be able to go around the outside? Bit of contact between the two, but Howard parks that car perfectly and stays in front for the time being. And yeah, as you say, his teammates, they're going to be feeding information to each other, helping each other along the way. But just look at that train of 4 cars right in front of them. Buchhout wanted to be the leading car. They're having a battle into Tosa as well. And Buchhout just has to keep his wits about him, has to keep composed, Ross, as they carve their way through. Luckily, one of them gets out of the way fairly quickly and won't pose much of a challenge. But as backmarkers, you're fighting for position. It's very easy to miss the fact that you've got the leading cars coming up behind you.
Oh, it definitely is. Of course, you'll have blue flags coming up on your dashboard. You'll have your engineer, if you've got one, or your engineer app, if you've got one of those, screaming blue flags. But it's, when you're driving, you're focusing on what's in front of you, not behind you. You're checking what's behind you on occasions to make sure that no one's going to smack into the back of you, or if you're defending. But your concentration is on going forwards in a straight line. You can see that Howard getting past some of the lap traffic, and we're seeing some few cars going off the road as well, and Howard's going to get held up into the final corner now. They'll both get DRS. Howard, I think his momentum's a little bit worse as that one drives into the pit lane there. And now we're seeing back into the lead as Vagapov and Flack both pit. And look at how close Bukow is to the back of Howard. He's pulling to the outside. They've both pulled a move like this before, but Howard once again perfectly placed on the entrance to Tamburello. This is a sublime defensive performance that we're seeing from Howard as he now heads into Villeneuve. He's just putting his car exactly where it needs to be to keep Bukow behind him, and if he can do that for about 50 more laps, as once again just brilliant defending, he can have this race win. But he needs to keep Bukow behind him, and that is what he's just done perfectly on 2 occasions in 1 lap. Let's see if he's going to do it any more times.
Yeah, definitely. Bukow's piling the pressure on, but Howard isn't flinching, staying composed, keeping his wits about him, making sure he can make that car as wide as possible. Pretty easy job around him, and Zalagianis is right in the mix now within the DRS range of Bukow. He's going to be the 3rd car in this train, probably one of the, other than leading the way, the best place to be, because now Bukow has to look forwards as well as backwards. And Zalagianis is in the DRS. He's latched onto the back of this lead fight on the medium tyres, so Bukow is sandwiched between 2 people on the fresher rubber, which, to be fair, we don't know. The hards seem to be quick. Bit of a slide from Zalagianis, as once again Bukow's going to have the DRS compared to Howard, who is left vulnerable. But again, he doesn't seem to be as slippery in a straight line. And again, Howard parks the car very, very good into the Tamburello chicane. Not quite close enough to launch an attack. And when will Tobias, when will desperation start to creep in for him?
I think maybe within like the final 8 laps, if we see anything like drastic. However, he's got the time. He's got about 14-ish laps, to be honest, which is a huge chunk of time in a formula race like this. I mean, yes, they're not long, and this race has gone by in it feels like 15 minutes, but it's been about 43, surprisingly. But no, we'll probably see them. He'll probably start getting desperate within like the final 5-ish laps, if I'm, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to do that, but both of them are doing exactly what they need to. There's got the back marker just coming off, and look how close he is. He's practically pushing him in towards Alta. This is the best chance since probably the start of this stint. Down the inside comes Bukow, gets the lead of the race, but don't forget he's going to be vulnerable down in towards the last couple of corners, and again down the pit straight. Liam Howard is going to have the DRS in order to put the pressure back on. Closes his DRS, thinks, no, I've got the pit straight. I have a perfect opportunity in order to come back at him. A great move from Bukow, but how long is it going to be kept? Can he make that car wide? Can he use his push to pass in order to keep the charging Netrex Grand Prix behind? Closing once again. Here comes Howard on the offensive, coming for the counter-attack to the left-hand side as Zalagianis going to go 3 wide in towards Tamburello, follows him through, uses the gap that the Netrex forced open, and now Zalagianis into the top 2. Liam Howard did all the hard work for Zalagianis there, and all he had to do, Ross, was sit there, be patient, and wait for his moment.
Well, he did, but it was a beautifully timed selection of making it 3 wide, and I had my head in my hand there because I thought it was going to end up in tears, but no, up into P2 goes Zalagianis. Bukow loses 2 places on 1 straight. Yeah, that's not ideal, is it? But a great move there from Howard, and Zalagianis taking the opportunity perfectly to slide up onto the higher podium position. But now what can Bukow do on the counter offensive? Howard now has to, we know that Howard can defend well, and we know that Zalagianis also has a lot of pace on board that wagon at the moment. So it's all about what can Bukow do, how can he respond. We saw a great move here a lap earlier into the Variante Alta, doesn't go for it this time. A little bit of traffic ahead of Howard as well, getting well out of the way of the 2 leading cars, and still Bukow is actually outside of the DRS range at the moment. Zalagianis will be getting DRS, but unless Bukow closes up, he's not going to be able to get it. Coming onto the main straight, no, Bukow will not have DRS down the straight this lap. Zalagianis will get it, but Bukow, oh no, he does apparently. Never mind, I've been lied to by the timing.
And
never
here
mind.
comes Zalagianis to the right hand side. He's going to have to go the long way round, but 2 moves in 2 laps into the same corner, and Zalagianis has really put himself into a great position, into the driving seat in order to try and win this race. He's been the silent force in the background. Not really someone you'd expect to be a contender. It was always Howard and Bukow that were leading the way, leading the charge, and Zalagianis in this second stint, a good second wind of pace in order to drive himself into the race lead. And Bukow, as you said, Ross, is sort of dropping back a little bit if he loses that DRS and the slipstream. He's really going to be out of the hook, and he's going to rely on Zalagianis and Howard fighting in order to bring himself back into this race. He's on the harder compound. at some point his sheer pace is going to catch up to him. It's not going to be the most ideal situation. But again, similar situation to Buchau on Howard. Howard is going to have the DRS once more in order to launch a counter-attack, launch a counter-offensive, and he does not wait around, Tobias.
No, of course not. However, something that spiked me about this battle is that it's quite similar to a German saying, which is like, wenn sich zwei streiten, lacht der Dritte, which basically means when the two fight, the third one laughs and gets all the glory, which just seems to have happened right now. Obviously, we still got a long time to the race, but Zalogiannis really used that opportunity well to get the position and is now in the lead. I think Howard's a bit far away for the counter attack now, which he is, yes. So Zalogiannis will have the lead for another lap, which will mean that those mediums can go in the clean air, which seems to be quite an important thing. That seems to be an issue with Wesley Buchau, though. It doesn't seem like his car's very good in the back pocket. He's dropped a huge portion behind them, hasn't he, now?
Yeah, absolutely. That's loads of time that's just been lost in the portion of a couple of corners. So yeah, the pulse. Maybe it's a strategical blunder. Maybe he just doesn't quite have the pace. Maybe it's desperation. Maybe he's seeing the hopes of winning the race sail away from him between Howard and Zalogiannis. It is demotivating as a driver to see that happen, losing two cars when you're trying to go for a move for the race lead, to have two cars blitz past you down a DRS straight. It's difficult to deal with, but either way, even with Buchau, if he doesn't get himself back in the mix, the big scram from Zalogiannis though has to cut across Alta, and that could hand the baton back into Howard's hand. He could be back in the driving seat. Zalogiannis did gain a bit of time. Will he have to slow down? That is going to be the talking point. And well, fair enough if he stays out of DRS without any consequences. We're going to take a replay, take a look back at it. This is him out of this uphill left-hander, not really much of a left-hander, into Alta. What happened? What went wrong? Looking for probably the 50 ball just to chuck it in, lock the rears, a bit of a snap, and had to cut over the grass.
Yeah, just too much speed as well. Lock the rears, too much speed. The combination, very, very quick in his decision making there. So, at least he decided very quickly that he wasn't making the corner, because that's a lot better than bouncing it over the curbs, potentially damaging a car, potentially spinning out. So he maintains the lead for now, but will he get a penalty? Will he have to slow down? We don't know. Yet there's 10 laps left in this race, lap 28 of 30, the first race of the FSR season in 2022. And well, we've seen Zalogiannis go from, well, not quite zero, but to a definite hero in the space of 2 laps. And now there's questions over whether he'll be maintaining that lead after he cuts the chicane. And let's see if he makes it through cleanly this time, as Howard slowly starts to pull back in. Buchau falling to 2.5 seconds down. I don't want to, call anything too early, but at this phase in the race, it looks to me like Buchau's made a massive, massive tactical blunder there, gone onto completely the wrong tyres. Whether it will come out and play dividends, I'm not sure, but for the time being, he's dropping further and further away as Zalogiannis enhances his lead by a few tenths through the last few corners. We don't know if he's going to get a penalty, but he's extended his lead on that lap over Howard anyway. It's now 1.2 seconds. Can Howard regroup? Can Buchau regroup as well and start chewing through that gap? He's nearly 3 seconds back now. I don't know what's going on, but he's clearly not happy at the wheel of that car.
No, absolutely not. And we see a fight for P7. This is Scott Flack, who had a bit of a shaky moment towards the start of the race, trying to claw his way back through on the soft compound tyres. Gets past Remitz pretty comfortably down in towards Tamburello, but is Remitz going to look back up the inside? No, he's squirming outside, inside. Which way do I go? Had to find the gap, had to find the space, but Flack inside the top 7. Yeah, we haven't really had a chance to be talking about everyone else in the Academy Championship today. It's all been the focus at the top 3. They've been the ones in the spotlight, taking centre stage and giving us an absolute cracker for a season opener so far, Tobias.
Yes, of course, it's been really, really good. It's been good racing. It's been fair also, which has been even better. It's just been really, really fun to watch. I'd also like to mention Peter Vagapov. He's had an amazing race from last position on the grid up to P6. That is incredibly impressive from the Russian driver. He's currently catching Harvick and could get the top 5. That would be an incredibly, well, it would be a very impactful performance, wouldn't it?
Well, it would. That would be a massive statement in terms of pace to come from what? Where is he? I think it was P30. He was dead last overall in the Valley Esports car, and to claw his way back to a potentially, top 5, which, even to qualify inside the top 10 and get to inside the top 5 is a good feat. To come from 30th, it just shows his racecraft, his consistency, how he's able to pick his way through and play the strategy well. He's probably had a relatively quiet race, maybe in some cases, you don't really make many overtakes, and he might even make one right now in towards Tamburello on Harvick to the left-hand side. Not quite committed enough under brakes, but certainly making a statement. In fact, does force a mistake from Harvick, who has to cut across Tamburello, and Vagapov says, thank you very much. I'm inside the top 5, 25 positions gained in this race, Ross.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely flying at the
Oh,
moment.
no, he's got
Oh, as we say that, commentator's curse. Off the road goes Peter Vagapov, but he's only lost out on the one position to Harvey. He's still ahead of Flack for the time being, but no, I was always going to be interested. I didn't say anything at the start of the race, but I saw that Vagapov hadn't qualified, and I was sitting there thinking, okay, Peter wants to put on a bit of a show here. I know he's a very fast driver. He's fast in whatever he gets in, and we've seen here today, he's just proving himself. I'm sure he's having a great time out there as well, just blasting round from last up to 6th at the moment, and he's just doing a great job. And despite that mistake that we've just seen, a bit of commentator's curse there from us, he's doing a brilliant job. And, you know, it's been a relatively strong drive as well. Very few mistakes here or there. And he's you know, look at him. After that one mistake, you know, he's managed to maintain onto P6. He's kept Flack behind him. And once again, focusing his sights forward on Harvick. He wants that P5. And well, would he get up to P3 onto the podium? I doubt it. It's a 16-second gap from Bucco to Van Vukas, but you know, Harvick is definitely within reach. We can see Van Vukas ahead there as well, just going into Tamburello. There's certainly a realistic P4 on the cards here for Vagapov if all stays clean and there's no drama towards the end of the race, and that would be a great result for him. We've got a replay on board with Harvick of what happened coming into Tamburello, so he's maintaining the lead for the time being. Does he hit the brakes slightly too late? Yeah, just hits the brakes too late, doesn't scrub off enough speed, has to go straight on over the right-hander. Through comes Vagapov up the inside, but then into Villeneuve. We'll see here, I assumed it's the same thing, too much speed into the left-hander, doesn't quite make the right-hander, clips the gravel, and it's good night Vienna, and drops back down in position. But Vagapov now knows he's got the pace, and Harvick, well, he's probably feeling a bit nervous looking at him in his mirrors.
Yeah, absolutely. And Harvick, well, has made a mistake during the replay himself.
As I say that.
He is back inside the top 5 and he's down into P7. So I think, Ross, you probably should just quieten down a little bit, shorten your points and stop putting these guys into harm's way, I think. But we're going to take a look at what happened into this fast right-hander. Tricky enough on your own. You're braking pretty much while turning, and that obviously sends you into a spin. The rear end is going to be very light. You're turning, you're braking. The weight distribution is all over the place. So yeah, very easy mistake to make, but an unfortunate one at that. He still has a chance to get himself back inside the top 6, but for Vagapov, he hasn't got Harvick in the way anymore. He can set his sights on Van Vukas, use those soft compound tyres, but Tobias, as the laps wind down, as the corners wind down, his time for opportunity, his window of opportunity also comes down.
Yes, he's only got 6 laps now, I think, which is a good amount of time if you're an opportunistic person. However, you do start feeling a bit on edge, like saying, can I do it? Can I do it? Will I make it? So yeah, no, that's going to be a definite thing to see. Will he? It depends if he's going to be resourceful, because it's one thing catching up to a car, it's another thing getting past. That's what a lot of racing drivers will say. As we're currently on board with Wesley Bookout, who's I feel like is catching up to Howard, but then suddenly slows away. It's been a very odd race for him, hasn't it?
Yeah, of course he had that stellar qualifying lap, a good first stint as well. It seemed as though it was going to be a dominant win because we expected him to come in onto the soft compound tyres, have a great second stint, completely blitz away from Howard, but it's been the complete opposite. Whether it was going onto the hards, whether this second stint just hasn't been well for him, maybe he gets off to a better start and slowly his pace as a driver, not necessarily in the car, but as the driver coming down slowly as, I guess, the fatigue, I guess. It is a sprint race, but I guess the demotivation of seeing Howard and Zalagianis go through, I guess, does take a toll on you as a driver. But yeah, he's still going to bring it home for a podium unless something drastic happens. So still a good result, but Ross, I guess not the one he would have wanted starting from pole position, and you always want to get the season off to a good start with a win.
Of course you do. I mean, you always want to win every single race, ideally. That's not realistic. It's quite hard to win every single race in a season, but you especially want to win the first race more than anything. You know, you want to get your season off with a bang. See Vagapov there pushing Van Vukas almost, and indeed pushing Van Vukas quite literally off the track. He forces him into an error up to P4. He moves to cap off a fantastic drive so far. Let's see how much of that gap he can eat out of Bukau now. But yeah, Zalagianis, in the early phase of the race, he wasn't a contender. You know, he was in the top 3, always in the top 5, but he wasn't really a contender until the pit stops. And then he was handed an opportunity and he grabbed it with both hands into the lead. And well, if he can stay in that lead, doesn't make any big mistakes, doesn't run out of tyres, you know, he can. I'm pretty sure he can win this race. You know, he's looking good at the moment. He's not making any mistakes. He's keeping the car in a good condition. And Howard is just not chipping into that gap. You know, if anything, he's dropping slightly back each lap. So Zalagianis, you know, he's got a really, really good chance to win this race. He's really come into the fold in the second phase. But all he needs to do is keep it on the road, keep the tyres happy, and bring the car home.
Yeah, exactly that. And well, it's an awkward one because, you know, you've just got to get to the end. You always want to get off to a good start, get the morale high, you know, because it's all about momentum. Again, even not necessarily in driving, but mentally, you want to get off to a good start. Give yourself that confidence boost, because if you start doubting yourself, you're gonna, you know, you're not going to do particularly well. You might be quick, but if you're telling yourself you're going to lose, chances are you are going to lose, as we see Van Vukas getting, again, all sorts of wrong through that left-hander. Not quite to the extent that he did on the previous lap, but still Flack putting some pressure on, and once again a mistake from Van Vukas. Has to cut across the track, and Flack's going to say thank you very much, and up the inside of Alta, going to make it pretty easy job for him. And despite his troubles, kept it composed, and there goes Van Vukas round. Harvig's going to inherit P6 as well. So yeah, these last couple of laps really haven't gone his way. But again, Flack, he's an example of a driver. Yet yes, he's not been set in the timing sheets ablaze, but even though he's had his troubles, he's had his mistakes, he's clawed back, he's stayed composed, he's brushed it off, and he can still bring it home for a top 5. So yeah, very, very well done to him. We're going to see what happened to Van Vukas. Harvig as well had it. He was assisted round. Harvig was the one that made the mistake and then tapped Van Vukas round. So yeah, that's not going to look great on Harvig's side, but again, these mistakes happen.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sorry, Tobias. Please carry on.
No, apologies. Yeah, they definitely do happen. It's something that can be really seen with these drivers. They're really pushing, and these stuff just happens sometimes. So it's just something that it's just part of racing, really. If someone's gone around the Variante Alta, that just happens. It's part of the racing. So you know, it's a bit of a shame for Harvick, especially for Van Vukas, who lost a lot of position time for that. As we're currently on board with Wesley Burkhardt, who's losing even more time, you can really see those rings again on the tyres, so you can actually see how the tyres are degrading. Yeah,
and the tyre degradation, of course, they don't look in particularly great shape, even though they're on the hard compound tyres. So yeah, not exactly being the best second stint for him at all. And Howard on that previous lap has set his fastest lap, so he has had some sort of second wind. He sees a chance for the race victory. Again, in that first stint, like we saw, he used everything he had left in those last couple laps to try and pull out the gap on Buchhout. So maybe he's doing the same again, Ross. He's saved it all up. He's bottled up a lot of pace. Maybe he's got some push to pass left to go as well. 5 tenths off the gap in terms of getting that DRS, getting that assistance with the rear wing flap open. Small mistakes like that probably won't help him, but still managed to gain some time relative to Zalagianis, and with around about 2.5 laps left of this race to go, his time is dwindling down. He's going to need to use this momentum. If he can get onto the back of Zalagianis, he's going to need to make the move quick.
Yeah, indeed. Well, he needs to push hard, and we are seeing him pushing hard. That's why he made that mistake into the hairpin, just overdriving the car. And he is starting to chop into that time now. We've seen he must have been saving the tyres, but you know, has he gone too late? Has he left it too late? He's really hounding the car through Variante Alta. It was all sorts of sideways at one point through there. He is pushing hard. You could see it's actually cost him a lot of time. It was just too aggressive over the curbs. He's going to have 2 laps left to cut into that time and then make the overtake. That's the problem. I think that he's left it too late, because not only does he have to close that gap of now 1.5 seconds, he's then going to make the overtake as well. And I think it's going to be quite difficult to chop up that time unless Zalagianis makes a mistake. But he's been very, very good, very, very consistent all race long. And Howard, well, he's now starting to overdrive the car, getting a bit desperate. I think he's just left it too late, unfortunately. I'm not sure what his push to pass situation is like, but I really think he's just decided to really go for it too late. He's got the tyres in the optimum temperature, but the gap is too big. And now he's starting to lose time. He's starting to overdrive the car, trying to get up to the back of Zalagianis. And I think it's all going to slip away. If Zalagianis keeps on the road, I think he's got this one in the bag.
Yeah, it's all about consistency. He's given himself, he's done everything right in this race. Didn't qualify on the front row. Not at all, but that doesn't matter. The points are scored in the race. That's what matters. Is Howard, clumsy mistake. That definitely any chance he had of winning this race have been absolutely obliterated with that small mistake. Well, I say small mistake. It was quite a sizable mistake, but yeah, that's put the Zalagianis even more so in the driving seat. All he has to do, as you said, keep it on the road, get to the checkered flag. He's got, well, as he comes through, a lap left to go in this race. He's going to bring it home for the first win of the season, and I would say probably going to be, well, it's been a remarkable victory, and again, I'd say it's going to be between him and Vagapov for driver of the day in terms of our say, because Vagapov from last on the grid to P4 has been a sensational drive, but Zalagianis, he hasn't put a foot wrong, Tobias.
Oh, for sure. Zalagianis has probably been the best driver, apart from that one mistake into Variante Alta, which was a bit clumsy. However, yeah, he's driven perfectly apart from that mistake. And from Vagapov, it's just been impressive. Sadly, we haven't seen many of his moves because he's been so focused on this wonderful fight for the lead. However, something I can note from Vagapov is that he can't seem to catch up to the three guys ahead, showing how much faster than they were than most of the field right now, which is something which has been really impressive for all the three of them. See, as we are on the final lap, going through the final times through these wonderful corners here at Imola. So yeah.
It's been a great race. It's been a nice warm welcome to you guys here in the commentary booth, and certainly have got the season off to a great start. Zalagianis has given us some great action. So too has Liam Howard and Wesley Buchhout. But all three of them should be proud of themselves. They're going to round off the podium today. Vagapov as well. A great drive from him. But center stage, he's going to come through the final corner. He's going to be leading the way as he comes through on the final lap 38 of 38. Zalagianis for Ground Effect Sim Racing Team wins in Imola for the first round of the 2022 Formula Sim Racing Academy Championship. Take a bow, son. And Liam Howard, a couple of seconds later, will come home in second place. Buchhout has lost a lot of time on that last lap as Vagapov, well, a couple more laps, he might have actually been putting the pressure on, but definitely a well-deserved P4 for him and a P3 for Buchhout. Scott Flack will come home a few seconds later to round off the top five. Again, a driver that has had his troubles, got on with it, kept his composure, kept going, and overall, Ross, it just has been a really good season opener.
Oh, it certainly has. Some great performances on display. We've had drama, we've had a little bit of tactics going on as well, and well, as we were saying at the start of the broadcast, Imola is a track that always delivers, and that is what we've seen here today. We've seen this man, Vagapov, not this man, apologies, a different valet driver, but Vagapov putting on a brilliant display from last to fourth. We've seen Zalagianis grabbing an opportunity with both hands, Buchhout with a tactical error, and then I believe he made a mistake actually on the last lap, which is why he dropped so much time, but I'll have to get that confirmed. We see cars all diving out of the way to finish the first race of the season, and we see Thomas and Zarov coming home in P13 and 14th respectively, and the final car to finish the race behind them as well. So it's all done and dusted in the FSR Academy Championship round 1 of the 2022 season, and a very nice race. It was maybe not as dramatic as some would have hoped. There was certainly quite a clean race, quite a traditional race, not your traditional sim race in the sense of everyone crashing into each other, as we've seen sometimes occasionally. I believe last year at Imola we had that massive pile-up at the start, didn't we, in the Academy? That was quite a spectacle to behold, but it's been a nice little race nonetheless, and Zalagianis kicking off the season with a win, exactly how he would have wanted to start his 2022.
Yeah, cannot wait to see how this season unfolds. It's been a great way to start the season, and well, we're going to run through the top 10. Here is George Zalagianis taking the win for round number 1. Liam Howard in P2 with Buchhout rounding off the podium. Then comes Peter Vagapov from last on the grid, comes home P4 with Scott Flack rounding off the top 5. Then comes Harvig in P6, Van Vukas P7 with Indirect Remix for Netrex Grand Prix in P8, Lianos in P9 with Damo Brownfarm for Valley Esports. Again, a good day in the office for those rounding off the top 10. Looking through, it's just been a great race. We saw a really close qualifying, and that definitely did translate into the race we had for the whole 38 laps. We didn't really have much in the way of quiet moments because, the top 3 definitely gave us a show. We had a little bit of drama further back. Of course, Vagapov carving his way through the field. We didn't really see much of him until towards the end when we realized that, whoa, hey, he's actually carved his way through the field. So yeah, overall, Tobias, I'd say, you've been welcomed in nicely to FSR.
Oh yes, definitely. I was really spoiled for how good the racing was, and I'm really looking forward to be commentating on the rest of the season. To be honest, this really has gotten me excited for the rest of the year.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, we're going to have another round in 2 weeks' time. Round 2, not quite sure what the track's going to be quite yet, so that's going to be a nice surprise. But we've got 10 rounds. We've got 8 tracks that we do know, 2 that we don't. They'll be decided by a community vote. But final thoughts on the race before we round up from you, Ross?
A lovely little race to kick off the Academy Championship and the FSR as a whole in 2022. And, a perfect shown of why Imola is just one of the best tracks in the world. And that's not opinion, that's fact. And you can find me all you like, you will lose. It's been a great race today. We've seen some great performances. And, I think there's a few drivers out there who can be very, very happy with what they've accomplished today. A few drivers who I think can understandably be a bit disappointed. But you've got to live and learn. And I think we've seen as well the start of what should be a very interesting championship. Looking forwards onwards, we've got some great tracks coming up. Of course, we have no idea what track's going to be next, such as the beauty of FSR. What track we go to next is actually voted on, but we do have a track pool that we vote on, and it's a very, very nice little pool of tracks that we've got going. And I'm very excited looking at some of them and very excited for the future. And again, as I said, what a great way to kick off 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been a pleasure alongside you two. I can't wait to enjoy the rest of this season with the pair of you. It's been a great way to open up the season, as we said. Definitely stick around for the Pro Championship in just a few moments' time. And then, of course, after that, we'll kick it off with VCO for the World Championship. O'Leary, Lewis McDade and Cameron Roger will be on the commentary for that one. But until then, guys, thank you, of course, to Masita eSports and VCO for joining us for this season. I've been Zach Sweeney, joined alongside by Tobias, Blumschein and Ross McIntyre. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.